The storm rolled across the valley like a living creature, clawing at everything in its path. Zarani could barely breathe as acidic rain hissed against her armor cowl, each droplet scalding through the thinner layers. Her legs screamed with exhaustion, but she couldn't stop. Not now. Not with the war beasts still hunting her. The shattered remnants of her village smoldered in the distance. Smoke, blood, silence. All gone. Everyone gone. She had seen the gunships descend, dark shapes blotting out the sun with their thunderous engines. The Empire had finally found the rebel hideout. Her people had been prepared to fight, but preparation meant nothing against orbital fire. What remained after the first strike was eradicated by the ground troops. Her flight began as a desperate sprint, but by the second day, it was a crawl. Now, it was survival by inches. No shelter, no food, no allies. Just pain. The surrounding forest was dense and hostile, each plant a barb trap, each animal a predator honed by evolution and war. Her skin was lacerated, her eyes bloodshot. She had long since lost the direction she was supposed to run. They would catch her. They always caught the survivors. For interrogation, for trophies, for show. She had seen what they did to capture rebels. Her only hope now was to disappear so completely that even the Empire would think her dead. That hope flared faintly when she saw the unnatural barrier. Half camouflaged beneath the thorn brush and rotting growth, a wall made of scrap, bones, and carved with rose from the mist. It looked like a shrine or a grave. Maybe both. It encircled something, and beyond it, the terrain shifted, a concealed alcove in the cliffside, so precisely shaped it couldn't be natural. Her breath caught. The legend spoke of a place like this, a place where the ghosts lived. She didn't hesitate. Legends or not, the storm was going to kill her before the Empire got the chance. The acidic wind burned her tongue as she forced her way through the barrier, slicing her arms on twisted metal. Her blood hissed where it struck the ground. A hut waited beyond, half built into the stone, draped with moss and shadow. It looked ancient. There were no lights, no sensors. Just silence. Zarani collapsed against the door. It creaked open without resistance. She stumbled in, fell to her knees, and only barely registered the heavy scent of smoke and steel before darkness took her. When she awoke, the room hadn't changed. Her pain had, slightly dull but still present. She was lying on furs, their origins unidentifiable. A fire crackled in a recessed pit, perfectly controlled. No visible vents. Tools hung on the walls, ranging from primitive knives to composite devices she couldn't name. There were no interfaces, no galactic tech. It was as if the spacefaring age had never touched this place. And yet everything worked. She moved slowly, testing her injuries. Her side was bound with gray cloth, soaked in an antiseptic she couldn't place. The wound she remembered being torn open had been stitched with something tougher than standard thread. She blinked, disoriented. Whoever lived here didn't just tolerate her presence. They'd saved her. Fear settled in next. Nothing this far out was ever kind without reason. She reached for the small blade hidden in her boot, only to find it gone. Her breath caught. She rose, scanning the room. No movement, no sign of the inhabitant, only meticulous order. The fire hadn't burned out. The room hadn't cooled. Then she heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, approaching the hut from outside. Her limbs froze. She backed into a corner, grabbing a length of metal from the floor. The door creaked open. The figure that entered was massive, wrapped in patchwork armor, its face hidden under a deep hood. It carried a carcass the size of a grown sheckhound slung over one shoulder. Blood dripped onto the threshold. It stepped in without a word, closed the door, and turned. Zarani raised a metal rod. Trembling, the figure met her gaze. A long moment passed. Then, slowly it lowered its hood. It wasn't an alien. It wasn't a mutant. It wasn't even anything she could classify. It was human. Her grip slackened. She had never seen one in person. No one had. Not really. Not in generations. Humans were myths. Monsters from ancient war archives, used to frighten disobedient youth. A dead race, consumed by their own fire. Yet he stood there, breathing, blinking alive. He dropped the carcass with a thud and walked past her like she wasn't even a threat. He hung his tools, removed his cloak, washed his hands. Every movement calculated, minimal. She couldn't make herself speak. He finally looked back at her. "Stay," he said, and nothing more. The next day passed without words. He worked, she watched. He ignored her presence as if she were a passing breeze. Occasionally, he would glance in her direction, but with no hostility, just awareness. He was always aware of everything. Sound, wind, motion. He skinned the beast he brought. His knife cuts were perfect, separating hide from flesh in a way no machine ever could. He boiled bones for tools, rendered fat for oil. No waste, nothing lost. Each action told a story of years spent surviving in the most hostile of worlds. Not surviving, thriving. She found herself studying his gear. It was unlike any military tech she'd seen. Handcrafted, functional, lethal in its simplicity. A throwing spike made from shattered ceramics. A bow with retractable arms. Cords woven from plant fibers that could strangle armor patrols. She saw him mend a radio, or what looked like one. He wasn't transmitting. He was listening. Static buzzed. Occasionally, he adjusted it with microscopic movements. She tried to ask who he was. He never answered. That night, when she thought he was asleep, she searched the shelves. She found paper, real paper, covered in handwritten notes, drawings of the stars, maps, records of passing patrols, days, seasons. It had been years. In a small drawer, she found a flat, black device, broken, but still partially functional. She activated it. Images flickered. A world of blue oceans and green continents. Cities taller than mountains. Fire raining from space. Ships shaped like nothing she knew. Explosions. Then silence. She scrolled. A younger version of the man appeared, dressed in armor, standing among others. All human. All armed. All gone. The screen died. She didn't hear him come up behind her. That was Earth. She dropped the device, turned, heart pounding. "You're not supposed to see that," he said, calm. Not angry, just resigned. "You're human," she said. He nodded. "How?" "You're extinct." He gave a tired smile. "Not extinct, just done playing nice." She backed away. "You killed them?" "The patrols. Only the ones who came too close." "You live here alone?" "Why?" "Because alone is better than hunted." She stepped toward him. "Why help me?" He didn't answer. Outside, thunder rolled. Far in the distance, lights moved through the trees. Drop scouts. The Empire. He looked toward the door, then back to her. "You brought them." "I didn't mean to. They must have tracked me. I can leave. I'll draw them off." The first drop scout didn't even get to signal. It dropped through the tree line, cloaked and silent, gliding on whisper thrusters, scanning for infrared and biosigns. The man moved through the trees like a ghost, mud smeared across his exposed skin, heat dampened, profile unreadable to any standard algorithm. He didn't shoot. He didn't need to. A line of taut cord cut through the air at chest height. The scout never saw it. Its body dropped in 3 pieces. Zerani watched from a hollowed tree trunk. He had ordered her to stay hidden. Not asked, ordered. His tone allowed no debate. She hadn't known why she obeyed until now. Watching him work was like watching an ancient predator reclaim territory. Every movement was controlled, efficient, purposeful. Another scout ship hovered above, scanning in wideband pulses. He fired once, not with a plasma rifle or pulse cannon, but a compact railbow made of wooden alloy, tuned to lethal precision. The bolt struck a vulnerable coupling between repulsor plates. The ship spun sideways, overcompensated, and slammed into the ridge wall. He vanished again, into the fog, into the forest. One by one, the scout team stopped reporting. Hours passed. Then came the real force. Orbital fire cracked open a section of the mountain face. Trees burned. Earth shook. Zerani clutched a stone to her chest and tried to breathe through the smoke. The man returned only when night fell. His arm was burned, and he carried 2 enemy rifles. He dropped them beside her and sat without a word. She didn't ask what had happened. She could see it in his eyes, exhaustion carved into bone, but no hesitation, no remorse. The next day, they moved. He led her into an older network of tunnels, dug deep into the mountains. The walls bore human markings, letters, numbers, ancient sigils. Each chamber held caches, food sealed in impossible containers, power units, medical kits, munitions. He opened one box and removed a strange object, curved, etched, wrapped in cloth. She asked what it was. He said, "Home." Zerani didn't press. He had carried these items for decades, across worlds, through the extinction of his species. She saw more than tools. She saw grief made solid. They camped deeper underground that night. She finally asked what had destroyed Earth. He answered slowly, "Ourselves. We advanced faster than we matured. By the time we realized our weapons were smarter than our leaders, it was too late. But you survived." He looked away. Survival isn't victory. It's just continuing. Are there more of you? Maybe, but I stopped looking. Too many ghosts. Zerani wanted to say something, offer comfort, but there was nothing to offer. Days passed. Patrols tightened. Drones buzzed overhead. The forest became a net. The Empire was deploying field generators, equipment used for flushing out insurgents. They knew someone dangerous was out here. They just didn't know what. She asked if they should run again. No. Then what? We become the story they tell their children to stay obedient. She stared at him. He began building, using parts salvaged from his ancient caches and Empire tech. He constructed traps that defied classification, grav warp snares disguised as brush, sonic distorters that mimicked human screams, luring soldiers into kill zones. He was making war, not just surviving, and he was enjoying it. Zerani found herself helping. At first, reluctantly, then instinctively. She rewired old minds, reprogrammed captured drones. Watched, learned. The man never praised her, but he never stopped her either. Their dynamics shifted. Not partners, not equals, but aligned. He shared rations, taught her to hunt, real hunting, not military pursuit. How to read wind, how to taste air, how to tell if the silence meant a predator was watching or the prey was already gone. He told her that when humans fell, it wasn't just fire or bombs. It was betrayal. Their enemies hadn't needed to conquer Earth. Just wait for humans to destroy themselves. Then take what was left. Zerani began to understand. The man wasn't hiding. He was remembering. Every day, every attack, every kill, a ritual to keep the past alive. The Empire sent a full company next. Not scouts, not drones, track walkers, atmospheric suppressors, PsyOps teams with mind pulse grenades. They carpeted the valley, expecting to crush a few rebels. They got him, not captured, not dead, just attention. He set off the first chain as the lead vehicle crossed the river. Electromagnetic bursts fried their systems. The second wave of charges liquefied the mud beneath their tracks. They sank. Then came the real strike. He led them into a ravine, forced them to split, isolated squads, took them apart piece by piece. Not just weapons. He used their psychology, their fear. He recorded cries of their dying comrades and played them from speakers in the trees. Zerani watched him dismantle an army. It wasn't glory. It was horror, precision horror. By the third night, the survivors begged for extraction. The Empire sent air support. He shot one out of the sky with a rail shot made from an old mining tool. The pilot never ejected. She asked him if this was vengeance. He said, "This is a message." To who? To anyone watching, that humans don't vanish. We wait. On the 6th day, the Empire changed tactics. Not force. Propaganda. Broadcast promising amnesty. Forgiveness. A new world. She asked if maybe they could take it. He stared at her. You think they forgive monsters because they want peace? No, they just want to dissect what scared them. He showed her a map, not of the valley, of the sector, marked with Empire bases, patrol routes, and weak points. You were planning this? Before me? I was always planning. Then why not strike before? Because before you, I didn't have a reason to make it last. The words hit her harder than any bullet. She didn't know if it was affection or purpose, but it was a connection. The final battle was an explosion. It was silence. The Empire pulled out. They left surveillance, orbital drones, but no more soldiers, no more metal feet crushing moss and root. The valley breathed again. He didn't celebrate. He just sat by the fire, sharpening a blade that didn't need sharpening. Zerani asked what came next. He said, "Now we let the galaxy wonder." About what? He looked at her. About how many more of me there are. Are there? He smiled. She realized then that humans weren't extinct. Not really. Their blood still ran hot. Their instincts still burned. The galaxy had buried them under myths and fear. But fear remembers. She watched him disappear into the trees again. Hunting, not for food, for weakness. And this time she followed. 3 weeks after the Empire's retreat, the valley stood silent. Drones still circled above, high altitude and wide lens, but they didn't descend. The man knew they were waiting, watching, measuring activity, calculating cost versus gain. The Empire always preferred to bleed out resistance through inaction, let time become the weapon. But humans understood patience too, and they didn't forget. He began moving again, not aimlessly, tactically. Zerani learned his rhythm, days of stillness, then rapid motion. They struck supply lines next. Not sabotage, extraction. He wanted to see what the Empire was feeding its soldiers, what quality their equipment had fallen to. It wasn't encouraging. The Empire had grown soft on easy conquests. Standard kits were decades out of date. Ammunition was mass-produced, brittle, unreliable. Comfort, not resilience, defined their forces now. He studied their war philosophy with the attention of a surgeon. Psychological profiles, response times, preferred engagement zones, weaknesses in chain of command communication. He was building a model of their failure, piece by piece. Zerani realized it wasn't just survival anymore. He was preparing something bigger. When she confronted him, he handed her a data pad. It displayed transmission patterns, key security relays, and a network of hidden Empire data nodes across the system. She scrolled through them in silence. "You're going to war," she said. "I already am." "Why now?" "They think I'm a rumor. Ghosts don't attack bases." He needed her help. She didn't hesitate. Over the next month, they traveled, abandoned outposts, forgotten mining colonies, places where the Empire had left only decay. He activated old satellites, bypassed decommissioned AI sentries, recovered lost records, human records, coordinates, names, timelines, fragments of Earth's last voices. In a bunker carved into stone, buried under 1,000 tons of rock, they found the first cache, cryopods. 12, 8 still functional. For occupied, human DNA confirmed. Survivors, they couldn't be revived immediately. Metabolism rates were too unstable, stasis damage too risky. But it didn't matter. Proof was enough. He sent a message. It wasn't words. It was an encrypted burst, coded with Earth's oldest military signal. He knew who might be listening. Old AIs, dead satellites with half-broken logic circuits. Maybe even other survivors like him, buried deeper, hiding harder. 2 responses came back. One was a fail-safe ping from a long-range recon ship, buried somewhere in the asteroid belts. The other was a question. "Are you real?" He didn't answer. He just sent the footage. Empire patrols routed. Units destroyed. Technology repurposed. One man surviving. The response was a set of coordinates. Zerani asked if it was a trap. If it is, they'll regret it. They traveled light, fast, quiet, across starless gulfs and broken systems, to a dead moon orbiting a gas giant. There, hidden beneath sense-reflective dust, was a ship, human design, black hull, no transponder, no markings, no signal. The door opened. Inside were two more. Humans, one woman, one man, both older, both scarred, both carrying the weight of extinction in their eyes. They said nothing for a long time. Then they nodded. He nodded back. Zarani watched the world change in that moment. Humanity wasn't a relic. It was a fuse. They began coordinating. Not just raids now, but destabilization campaigns. They mapped Empire weakness, uploaded virus protocols into abandoned satellites, hijacked mining drones, overloaded logistics algorithms. Within 3 months, 5 Outer Rim colonies suffered simultaneous blackouts. Civil unrest flared. Governors requested aid. The Empire, overstretched, couldn't respond. Within 6 months, local garrisons mutinied. Pirate lords, once crushed under Empire boothiels, returned. But they didn't rule. They served something worse. Something older. Rumors spread of a shadow fleet, ships without registration, crews that never spoke, weapons made from forgotten science. He knew fear was a faster ally than firepower. Zarani became the voice. She reached out to dissenters, rebels, smugglers, whispered stories of the Deathworlders, of the man who killed an entire company with scrap metal and instinct, of the humans that didn't need planets or governments to strike back. The Empire responded with new protocols. They labeled him a myth, broadcasted footage claiming to show his death, created counter-narratives, synthetic voices, AI-generated disproofs. It backfired. The more they denied, the more they fed the legend. When the first major fleet entered his sector, he was ready. He didn't fight them in space. He dragged them to the ground, used decoys to bait landings, lured them into the valleys he knew like breath. Then he collapsed the sky on them. Satellite debris, kinetic rods, gravity well flares. They burned. Zarani led a secondary team by then. Ex-mercenaries, former prisoners, defectors. They fought like humans, improvised, adapted, cheated. She taught them what he taught her, how to make fear tactical. One by one, systems peeled away, not conquered, not freed, just unplugged. The Empire's reach withered. Its voice faltered. Then came the summit. Empire leadership gathered in secret, high orbit, shielded, guarded. A last effort to restructure control, re-establish dominance. They never expected him to find them, but he did. He infiltrated their comms net, played an old Earth tune through every speaker. A funeral march. Then he spoke. We warned you not to come. You came anyway. You broke our world. Now we will break your illusion of safety. Then the flagship ruptured, not from outside, from within. An AI virus activated a pulse inside the ship's core. O-code, human designed. He'd buried it there years before, dormant in a stolen data cache. The summit ended in fire. The Empire didn't fall that day, but it cracked. Sectors began seceding. Factions reemerged. Faith in central power evaporated. And through it all, the myth spread that the humans were back, that they had never really left. He never claimed territory, never raised a flag. He only made one demand: leave Earth's ruins untouched. Let the planet rest. Some obeyed. Some tested the boundary. Those who did were never heard from again. Zarani asked him once what he wanted, not tactically, but personally. What was the end game? He said, to be forgotten, but remembered correctly. She didn't understand until years later. The war never ended in a formal treaty. It just faded. The Empire dissolved. The humans disappeared again. Silent, watching. Zarani lived long enough to see the next cycle begin. New powers, new alliances, but always, in the dark corners of conversation, there was the warning. If you push too far, if you forget restraint, if you think yourself untouchable, remember the Deathworlders. Remember what happened when one of them woke up in a hut at the edge of civilization and decided he'd had enough. No statues were built, no monuments named, but in every war academy, In every insurgent cell, in every whisper passed between officers when the stars grew quiet, one phrase remained. They look like us, but they are not like us. And that was enough.